Hello there. We are now in a new gate. We've moved into gate 42. So this is often called the gate of endings, although it's actually the gate of growth and of increase. But things cannot keep growing and increasing forever. Of course, there is always an ending at some point. So a new gate for this cycle of the sun. And of course, we have a first line day. Have we shocked ourselves comprehensively by leaping into the void? Maybe there's been an initiation of some sort. And maybe now it's time to bring things to a close. This is a sacral gate, and it carries the consistent pressure to finish what has been started. Know that this then will free up the energy for something new to begin. It is cyclical in nature, and it shares a channel with gate 53. Gate 53 is in the root, and it's the gate of beginnings. And so together they form what's called the channel of maturation, which is that cyclical energy of beginnings and ends. And it's what's called a format energy. So formats, they bring a sense of that energy that they're carrying. So in this sense, that cyclical energy of beginnings, middles, and ends, they bring that energy into the whole of the body graph. And this is the format for the abstract circuit. It's a pigeon today. The blackbird has gone. Today I have a pigeon. It's been a little while. I'm just trying to get in the window. I'm just going to shut my window, I think. Oh, yes. Fly away. There we go. We don't want a pigeon in here. Okay, so where was I? Gate 42.1. Okay, experiential way format channel. So the thing with the experiential way is that it is, well, it's all about experience, of course, the name's in the title. But when we get into line 1 here, we find diversification. And this is the foundation then of the experiential way. And what it's saying is that you don't do the same thing twice. You know, this is the lesson for anybody really who's got abstract circuitry, abstract activations. It's that you do it once, you have the experience, you put it in your back pocket, ready to assimilate it and make sense of it later on down the line, and then you go on to the next thing. So the essence of this hexagram, the foundation for how we must complete the process of form, is diversification. When we are completely diversified so that we go out in all directions, we can ultimately reach a point of completion. And when you look at our planet, we're quite diversified. You know, we do go out in all directions, and there are so many different experiences that we could be having every moment of every day. But are we reaching a point of completion? Has there been so much growth that now things have to contract and end? It's possible. And it would be what we're told in terms of the global cycles when you look at rave cosmology, you know, because we are coming to the end of a 400-year global cycle after all. So in the exalted, we have the ability, when surplus resources are available, to extend one's activities beyond their normal scope. Growth through expansion, particularly when defined to the root. So particularly when the channel is there. Ra says the most difficult thing for anybody with gate 42 is to quit something. You know, they're not quitters. It can be really, really difficult for them to have to stop, have to give something up before it's completed. It's not in their nature. And there can be a real pressure, both from the sacral and then pushing up also from the root, you know, looking down at that root, whether the 53 is defined or not, that pressure to really finish it, figure out how you can do it correctly, so that you can move on to the next thing correctly. And if it can't be done, then somebody with the 42 can really suffer. The 42 line 1 is always trying to figure out what can be completed. You know, what is it that can be finished off, tidied away, thrown away? I've got gate 42. I have it in my design earth. Line 4, actually, but it's still, that thing of finishing things off. And before I came into human design, certainly I would very often have things on the go that were not correct for me to have on the go because I either hadn't entered them correctly or hadn't finished off the previous thing before allowing that energy to come in for something new to start. So it's very, very much a message in this line is the correctness of when do we end something? Do we end something because we're just bored of it and we've had enough of it? Or actually, is now the right time? And we do know when we settle into the energy of it. But it doesn't like to give up. There's no reward when you give up. The power actually comes from completing the cycle. That's when you feel the satisfaction or the success, or you have that energy that is released by completing something correctly and putting it away. If you don't, well, this can lead to all kinds of fuckery. And of course, if you've got an open sacral and you never know when enough is enough, actually completing something is and doing it in the right timing can be a bit of a challenge. It's like knitting and knitting a scarf that never ends because you never get to that point of like, yeah, okay, I'm done now, I can cast it off. So what was going to be maybe a scarf for your toy bear is now you could actually encompass most of your town in it because you just don't know when to stop. And the completion, you might come to that point and then it's like, now I'm just going to do a little bit more. It's like, oh dear. So all right, that's a mundane example, but bigger picture, it's kind of what happens. And the detriment tells us that too much expansion can lead to decadence. And it's possible that people that have this, they never complete anything. And that could be because they never actually find anything worth completing. This can also be part of it. They could end up early in their lives getting into something that actually isn't for them and spend the rest of their lives trying to get out of it. Or getting out of it, never really feeling that it was right or that they got out of it properly, or that, there'd be something about that whole experience that is uncomfortable, which is an experience in itself, of course, depending on how you want to look at it. This has a lot to do with understanding the nature of your own design, the nature of a line, how it actually is playing out through the rest of your map, your body graph. And it has to do with being yourself. It has to do with following your own true nature, being who you truly are. And then these things will all operate properly regardless. And if we can actually just separate ourselves from the outcome, because it's not about the outcome, this is experiential, it's just about the experience, then maybe we can just allow it to be. We don't have to enjoy it, we just have to leave it alone to be what it is. Ra tells us that if you don't live out your type, then none of your lines work properly, actually. If you don't enter into things properly as yourself, you can't expect anything to operate properly, and it won't. So the Earth grounding the Sun as we go through this transit is gate 32. And this is the gate called conservation. Conservation, yes. Gate 32 tells us that the only thing which endures is change. And the 32 actually is not a big fan of change. And at the same time, it knows that it always comes. What are you going to do? I have 32 as well because I'm on Maya. That's my cross. So the 3242 is my design side. So I know the 32, but I say I know it. It's on my design side, so it's unconscious. And I have to focus really hard to really pick out the nuances of it. I recognize the fear of failure, which is a big thing for gate 32, as all of the splenic gates have their fear. Fear of failure is the 32. So that's my design sun. It's my design sun. Hold on a second. It is mine. See, I told you I didn't recognize. This is the level of awareness I have about my design. It's impressive, isn't it? So the 32 is my design sun. And that sort of energy of change is so apparent at the moment because I look out of my window here and I've got trees all along the back who are just coming into blossom, and it's so beautiful to see that energy changing. and having that real appreciation of the fact that the only thing that endures is change. Every day it's different. Probably every moment, if I was, just able to see it. Sometimes it's more apparent than others. But then all of a sudden, you look at the tree and it's full bloom and you go, when did that happen? Or all the leaves are out. And you think, oh, wow, I missed that point where it went from being hardly any leaf to being full, glorious green leaf. Anyway, it feels kind of fitting that the gate of endings, that internal cycle of change and growth and change and growth is supported in its process by the 32, which really understands the inevitability of change, that fear of failure, which can go along with either not adapting to change or missing the point of the change or changing when actually you could have just waited a little bit longer. All of these things can come through. It's tribal. The tribe doesn't want to fail. The tribe wants to be the best, most vital, most successful tribe that it can possibly be. And if you look at the fear of failure, the ultimate failure, of course, in a way, and especially when you're talking about the tribe, the ultimate failure is death. Because then you're no longer able to support the tribe. And everything can, big change. So this gate of endings, it's that fundamental fear of failure that can actually then support survival in its way. Anyway, gate of endings and the gate of fear of failure. Perhaps, the fear of failure can help the 42 to be correct in the way that it closes things off. That could be the energy, that could be the way that one grounds the other and supports it. The moon is going through a very individual phase at the moment. Gate 24, earlier this morning, we looked at that as we were closing out yesterday. And gate 2 at 9:59, this is all BST, remember, very itchy nose, the gate of the direction of the self and the home of the magnetic monopole. So it's our direction in life, it's that trajectory that we just surrender to and sit in the back seat and go, wow, this is one hell of a journey. But it's that unique direction of the self that can empower others to follow their own direction through your example. And then at 17 minutes past 7, we have gate 23. And this is the gate of assimilation, and this is the throat gate. So it's the way that we get our unique insights out into the world. It's the mental pressure of individuality coming down from the 61 into the 24, then 43 into the 23. It's all about mutation and inner knowing and sharing unique insights that can be inspirational and impactive or not, of course, and are generally better received when they're invited. Okay, now 11:32 today, we have Neptune on the move. Neptune is leaving gate 36, although it will retrograde back in about 5.5 months' time. But until then, Neptune is moving into gate 25. So this will bring a definition for because gate 51 is active in the North Node and for another month at least. So there'll be a little bit of a crossover there. But we don't look at the channel necessarily because Neptune, as we know, veils things. It hides things from us. So here it's veiling the energy of gate 25. So it's sort of hiding our innocence, maybe. Will we suddenly become aware of all the crises that have been going on while Neptune has been in 36? Is that something that's going to come out? It's been in there for 2 years. What has gone on in 2 years that we actually haven't really been aware of because we haven't been able to see it clearly? Is it suddenly going to pop out into our experience? There'll be everywhere we see is crisis. Or is it something that will just sort of come out over time? Will take a while because it's experiential in the 36. It needs time to go through its process. We have to make sense of it. So how is all of that going to play out? That's going to be really interesting to see. And then what happens in gate 25 when Neptune veils innocence? It veils the spirit of the self. What will it mean when that is hidden from our view? Neptune brings us the qualities of illusion, but also spirituality and also misinformation. So I invite you to explore how this shows up in your own environment and your own experience. And if you would like to post any of your observations in the comments below, I'd love to read them. So potentially interesting times. We'll see how it plays out. So until tomorrow, when we move into gate 42-2, go gently and yeah, enjoy your experience and see how I do this. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.